As a junior in college, I was living in an apartment complex. One of the girls in that apartment was pregnant, not married, and didn't know what to do. Couldn't tell her parents, didn't have the money to go to Puerto Rico or to Mexico or some other foreign country to have an abortion. So we had the standard way. Some used a Coke bottle, others used a hanger. She happened to use a hanger to abort her fetus. Flushed it down the toilet. It backed up the entire system in our apartment complex. The police came to every woman's apartment, and there were 3 of us living together in one apartment, and made us run around the couch 5 times to prove we weren't the woman who just had this abortion, that we were healthy enough to be able to run. Talk about shock, talk about being in the absolute depths of personal worth. That was about the lowest moment of my life. And then they found her the next day under a tree in the apartment complex. She had bled to death. So I want to not hear those stories ever again. They're moving stories. So we need Planned Parenthood to continue. So this was the story I said I'd never tell. Why wouldn't I tell this story? It's important, but it was about yet another co-ed who is dead because of an unsafe abortion. It was about the shame, it was about the blame, it was about the guilty until proven innocent syndrome as well. We felt powerless. So what should we do? The best thing to do would be just, well, forget it, put it in the past. But as you can tell from my response, one simply doesn't forget. And now I'd like to thank everybody who's here for this opportunity to share my story from the 60s, the days of before Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade right now is 46 years strong. 46 years. And since 1973, it has been the law of the land. And many of the young people today, or maybe I shouldn't say many, maybe I should just say some of the young people today, are possibly taking Roe v. Wade for granted because they've had it all of their lives. They can rely on getting a safe abortion and a legal abortion. So they think everything is fine. And for them it is fine, maybe. Recently, I think it was about 2 nights ago, on the radio once again, Roe v. Wade came up as a topic, and right behind it said, and the Supreme Court will be voting, and I thought, wait a minute. If everything is fine, why are we worrying about this? Everything is not fine. That's a real possibility. And to point out how unfine it was in my era of the 60s, I remember that there were 2 wards in hospitals. One was for polio patients and a polio ward, and the other ward was the septic abortion ward, which was mostly filled with women who were infected because of bad, illegal, unsafe abortions. And they had waited a while to do something about this infection. So many of the women who were in these wards weren't even going to leave those wards. They were doomed to die. They had waited far too long. And you say, well, what did they do that was so horrible to cause this infection? And I said, well, our top 2 solutions to end pregnancy was the coat hanger, as the young co-ed used in the video, and the other one was a knitting needle. And the others, they're so ridiculous, you think, how could we ever think that would happen? Well, we were desperate, truly desperate to find a solution for what to do. And because of that desperation, our death toll for self-induced illegal abortion was exceedingly high. The young woman in the video that I talk about, She was merely one of thousands of young women to die of unsafe abortions in 1967. One of thousands. Now today, again, we don't have those two awards. They just simply don't exist anymore, and that's the good news. And the good news should be that we won't go back. Currently, 7 in 10 people support safe and legal abortion, and that number's been mentioned many times today, so we're in a good place. But we must continue to fight the stigma and the misinformation by standing up for ourselves, for our sisters, for our daughters, for our granddaughters. Today, deaths from abortion are extremely rare, and one can choose to have an abortion earlier rather than later and can find better access to excellent health care. Some of you in here are providers of that health care. People like Planned Parenthood and their new state-of-the-art facilities provide wonderful services that I never had as a young person. No one should have to return to a time when women did not have safe reproductive rights. Our voices must be heard. We have to stand up and fight against the stigma and the misinformation. We won't go back. Please know that it's not too late for you to make a difference in today's women's stories. As been mentioned also several times today, tell your stories and your truth. Hear the stories and the truth of others. We all know the truth, and we all know that we can't go back. Thank you.